In our last episode, Beyond the Screen, we discussed the physical disappearance of technology. We explored how the rectangle in our pocket is dying, replaced by ambient intelligence and the neural links that might one day make our architect, Elias, a neural designer. We asked where the human ends and the AI begins. If you haven't heard that journey into the future of the interface, go back and listen to episode 6. But today, we are moving from the how of the tech to the where of the power. In episode 4, we talked about the digital sovereign, the compute wars, and the battle for silicon. Today, that battle has a new front line. We are heading to the heart of New Delhi. We are looking at the AI Impact Summit 2026 and the India AI mission. We are asking what happens when the office of the world decides that it wants to be the brain of the world. Imagine the halls of the AI Impact Summit in New Delhi. This wasn't just another tech conference. It was a declaration of independence. The Indian government didn't just invite the world. They laid down a 1.2 billion, which amounts to 10,372 crore rupees, wager on their own future. This is the India AI mission. Remember our Compute Wars episode? We talked about the Suez Canal of intelligence, the H100 chips from NVIDIA that everyone is fighting over. But while the West is locked in the supply chain bottleneck, India is diversifying the very foundation of the ghost. Let's talk about the hardware first. NVIDIA might be the global king, but AMD has quietly entered the Indian arena with a massive footprint. In Bengaluru, AMD has opened its largest global R&D center known as the Technostar. This isn't just a satellite office. It's a forge where the Instinct MI300 chips are being integrated into Indian data centers. Why does this matter? Because while the rest of the world waits in line for NVIDIA GPUs, India is partnering with AMD to build a multi-cloud infrastructure that doesn't rely on a single vendor. It's a hedge against the digital vassalage we discussed in earlier episodes. This infrastructure is the bedrock for a new breed of indigenous intelligence. Enter Sarvam AI. Founded by the minds who helped build India's digital public infrastructure, they recently launched their edge model based device assistant that sits on their new 30 billion and 105 billion parameter models. These are high performance, multilingual LLM optimized for Indian languages with strong reasoning and instruction following capabilities, delivering state of the art performance across Indian languages for enterprise grade applications. But Sarvam isn't just translating traditional English AI. They are building an India built voice first architecture catered to the Indian audience. Why? Because in a country where millions are more comfortable speaking in their natural dialects rather than typing, a text based chatbot is a barrier. Sarvam is building AI that speaks the language of the street and not just the language of the boardroom. Then there is Bharat GPT, a collaborative powerhouse led by IIT Bombay and backed by major Indian enterprises. They are developing Hanuman, a series of multimodal, multilingual AI models that can converse in 22 Indian languages. It's not about chat, it's about Hanuman being able to look at a legal document, which is in Tamil, summarize it in Hindi, and then explain it via voice in Marathi. And we cannot forget Krutrim, which is India's first AI unicorn. They are building the full stack from the silicon to the application, trained on over 2 trillion tokens of Indian data, India based data. This is the Indigenous Ghost. It is an AI that understands that the word lunch in New Delhi means something very different from lunch in New York. These aren't just technical achievements, they are a systematic response to the efficiency trap. By building AI that is culturally and linguistically at home, India is ensuring that the 0.042 calculations of the future are grounded in the reality of its own people. While Delhi was laying the foundation, the rest of the world has already reached a tipping point. We are moving away from LLMs that just talk and entering an area of large action models or LAMPs. Think of the difference between an AI that writes a travel itinerary for Elias and an AI that actually is the travel agent. The LLMs don't just predict the next word, they predict the next click. They can navigate websites, use apps, and execute tasks across the web. We have seen the rise of edge AI, the high performance model like Mistral's latest small models or Google's Gemini Nano that run entirely on your device. This is the ultimate defense for the cognitive liberty, which we had discussed in episode 6. If AI never leaves our phone, the digital sovereign cannot watch our thoughts. Now, let's talk about the human impact. What does this $2 billion mission really mean to a student in Bihar or a farmer in West Bengal? Well, this $1.2 billion mission is more than just a line item in the national budget. It's a fundamental redesign of the relationship between humans and machines. To truly understand why this matters, we have to look at what I call the last mile. This is the place where technology usually stops, where the pavement ends and the signal drops. But for India's sovereign AI, the last mile is exactly where the story begins. First, let's talk about the India AI marketplace. In our earlier shifts, we discussed the compute wars, how a handful of trillion-dollar companies owned the digital brains of the future. The marketplace is specifically designed to break that monopoly. Think of it as an app store, but for the global south. For India, this is about access. It provides high-end GPUs, the H200s and the AMD Instincts that we talked about, at a subsidized rate of roughly 65 to 100 rupees per hour, compared to the global standard of $2 to $3. Now, what does it look like on the ground? It means that a graduate student in Bihar does not need a supercomputer to innovate. They can rent a fraction of a GPU to run a climate model for their local village. It also means that a small startup in Uttar Pradesh can build a pest detection tool that runs on a $100 smartphone, which a farmer in West Bengal can use. They don't have to build the AI from scratch. They use pre-trained models specifically tuned for the Indian soil. For the rest of the world, this is a frugal innovation roadmap. It proves to nations across Africa and Southeast Asia that you don't have to be a digital vassal to the global north in order to have a future in AI. Then there is Bhashini. For decades, the internet always spoke English. If you didn't speak English, you paid what I call as the language tax. That is a lack of access to your own government, to your own health, and to your own growth. Bhashini is the tax collector's worst nightmare. Think of the doctor-patient bridge. At the New Delhi summit, we saw Bhashini demonstrate real-time speech-to-speech translation. A doctor in a city hospital speaks in English or Hindi, and a patient in the remote village hears it in their native Bhojpuri or Marathi dialect. The AI just acts as an invisible and empathetic translator, reducing errors and building trust where there was once only a wall of silence. This turns digital citizenship from a privilege of the elite class into a universal entitlement. It integrates into over 23 government services, allowing you to ask about your pension or your land records in your own dialect and get an answer in the matter of seconds. We also need to look at the AMD shift. While the whole world was obsessed with NVIDIA bottleneck, India made a strategic move to diversify the forge. By integrating AMD's Instinct MI300 chips into centers like Technostar R&D Center in Bengaluru, India is ensuring its sovereign cloud is resilient. It is not relying on a single supply chain. This diversification keeps costs down and offers an alternate to the capital-intensive models of the Silicon Valley. It also proves that a world-class AI stack can be built by focusing on inference efficiency, which is the actual using of the AI rather than just the raw power needed for training it. Finally, we have to revisit a fear which we had spoken about in episode 2, the last resume. Back then, we worried that AI would simply replace us. But the New Delhi frontline reframes this entirely. We are moving towards the augmented human. In rich countries, AI is often seen as a way to replace expensive labor. But in developing countries, AI is the equalizer. It is the force multiplier for scarce resources. We don't have enough doctors or teachers. AI allows one professional to treat 10 times as many people effectively. By championing sovereign AI, India is ensuring that cultural diversity isn't lost in the machine. If we only use models from the global north, we lose the uniqueness of our idioms, our history, and our values. The horizon shift isn't about the machine taking over, it is about the machine opening the door for the 90% of the world that was previously locked out. The New Delhi summit was a signal. The great game of the 21st century is no longer a two-player match between the US and China. India has entered the field, not just as a consumer, but also as a creator. The digital sovereign is building its own forge. The chips are arriving in Bengaluru, the models are learning in Mumbai, and the ghost is finally speaking in 22 plus languages. I am Abhishek Roy. This podcast is a journey that we take together. If you found today's update on the Delhi Summit insightful, please subscribe and share this episode. Let's make sure the conversation about the future isn't just a monologue. The world is shifting. Are you watching the mirage or the reality? See you on the horizon.